Thank you, Owen, for your kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm sorry that the Minister has left, but I hope some of his staff are here to hear some of the words that I am going to announce now. The Celtic Tiger is a distant memory, the economic boom a lost dream, and the consequences a recurring nightmare that we face in our daily lives. The construction sector at one time counted for about 30% of Ireland's GDP, and times were good. Now we live in a time punctuated with talk of crisis, austerity, and high unemployment. During the good times, there were opportunities to do the right thing, to build sustainably and for the long term, but we chose to do the expedient thing, build fast and sell. We had at the time the right building regulations in place, regulations that would have ensured high performance in energy, fire safety, and accessibility, but we did not have the kind of enforcement that is required to ensure compliance, and now our courts are dealing with the legacy. One saving grace I can share with you is that in terms of poor energy performance in the building stock, Ireland is not alone. The first ever reliable Europe-wide survey of the building stock was published late last year, and whilst it shows that Irish buildings have the highest CO2 emissions per square metre at just over 120 kilograms per square metre per year, we are in good company with countries like Poland, Greece, Cyprus, Luxembourg and the Czech Republic, all having CO2 emissions above 100 kilograms per square metre. The Chinese symbol for crisis is reputed to contain both the symbol for danger and the symbol for opportunity, and this conjunction has been widely used as a way of providing comfort in hard times. I do not know if it is accurate, this Eastern wisdom, but I do know that if you have a building stock whose energy performance is as low as that reported for Ireland, you have a major opportunity on your hands. The conference we are attending today addresses the very broad field of sustainable construction, an approach to building that seeks to balance the environmental, economic and social aspects of our built surroundings. My expertise and interest relates to one key part of that broad field, energy efficiency, and a large part of my time is spent in directing a European campaign with a self-explanatory title, Renovate Europe. The campaign is increasing knowledge and awareness of the very wasteful use of energy that we have become accustomed to in our buildings, and it works to forge a new political space in which strong binding policies and legislation on the energy efficiency of our buildings can be brought into force. Why? Because 40% of final energy used in the EU is used in our buildings, and the buildings are responsible for about 36% of all CO2 emissions. Also, we have to keep in mind that about 90% of the buildings standing today will still be standing and occupied in 2050. Our headline objective in the campaign is to reduce the energy demand of the EU building stock by 80% by 2050, as compared to 2005 levels, and we are aware that this cannot be achieved without a transformation of the building sector at all levels. We also know that without a stable long-term perspective, the industries that produce the materials and equipment needed to reduce the energy demand of our buildings will not make the investments in new production capacity and training that is needed. Just now, the EU member states, European Parliament and European Commission are engaged in negotiations on a new piece of legislation called the Energy Efficiency Directive. It was proposed by the European Commission as the means by which the EU would reach its target of achieving a 20% increase in energy efficiency by 2020. But the measures it contained were not strong enough. So the European Parliament toughened up the text and adopted an improved and amended version that would mean that the EU achieves and even exceeds its 2020 target. Unfortunately, the Member States have been busy taking all meaningful measures out of the directive, and we are today at a stage where adoption of the proposal by the Member States would mean that not even half of our target for 2020 would be achieved. Why is all this important? If this legislation was going through the US Congress, it would have a different title. It would be called the Jobs and Growth Act, because the measures it contained when proposed by the Commission would, if fully implemented, create 400,000 net new jobs in the EU, and it would reduce EU dependence on imported fuels by about 12%, saving about 50 billion per year. The version adopted by the European Parliament would create even more jobs and save even more on fuel imports. Why are the Member States not rushing to adopt this text? Because the Ministries of Finance see that a small amount of upfront investment will be needed, and even though several studies across the EU, including here in Ireland, have shown that for every €1 invested by central government in energy efficiency in buildings, €5, I repeat that, €5 returns to the national budget, in some cases within one financial year. There is, in our view, a need for political courage and political will to unblock the current negotiations and to adopt an ambitious energy efficiency directive. If the negotiations I've referred to stall, as many of us in Brussels believe they will, then this dossier on the energy efficiency directive will probably fall into Irish hands in the first half of 2013. If that becomes the case, I trust that our negotiating skills and the Irish understanding of what a missed opportunity feels like will prompt the Irish government to oversee a refreshed and highly ambitious directive being adopted. To finish, I would like to leave you with a few more words about our campaign. In order to achieve the ambitions of the Renovate Europe campaign, we will have to change the renovation rate in Europe from the current average of about 1.2% per year to an average of 3% per year. That within the next decade, and we will have to keep at that rate until 2050. We will also have to ensure that each time a renovation is planned, it is designed to tap all the savings potential that the building offers. Doing this will create an average of 1.1 million new jobs in the construction sector alone, and that for every year to 2050. The return on investment on such a programme would be in excess of 12%. In fact, numerous studies have shown that the job creation potential of energy efficiency in buildings show that an average of 19 jobs are created for every €1 million invested in energy efficiency. This is roughly 4 times more jobs than are created by an equivalent investment in energy production, for comparison purposes. So with that message, I wish you a stimulating and highly informative day, and I look forward to exchanging with you on these and other topics in the coming hours. Thank you very much.